Hello, everyone. Welcome to the E4 Health Roundtable. We'll give everyone just another minute and then we'll get started. We still have people joining, but I'll go ahead and get started. Welcome and thank you for joining our roundtable discussion today, Embracing AI and CDI, what it is, what's next, and how to navigate it. My name is Stacy Joseph, and I have the pleasure of leading the CDI team at E4 Health. We appreciate you all listening in, and I hope you're enjoying some beautiful spring weather where you live. I hope we'll get to meet many of you in person at the National ACDIS Conference coming up in 2 weeks. In our post survey, please let us know if you will be attending so we can send you an invite to our customer event. And also, if you're attending, please stop by our E4 Health booth and you can introduce yourself to Allison and myself and the rest of the E4 team. And, for today's objectives, by the end of today's session, our hope is that you'll have a better understanding, at least a high-level understanding of the core concepts of AI in healthcare, the role AI has in the CDI space, and a look at the future of AI and CDI practices. At the end of the presentation, we'll put a chat in the link to a survey. Please fill out that survey. Your feedback is really important to us. It helps us to create new content. We do these about every other month, and it's also how you'll receive your free ACDIS CEU. Our quick disclaimer is the information and opinions presented here are based on our experience at E4, and we've done the research, we've reviewed for accuracy, but E4 does not accept any liability regarding errors, admissions, misuse, or misinterpretation. This is just a guide. And just for those of you that are new to our roundtables and that are not familiar with E4 Health, we're a company that was founded in 2004. We serve over 400 health systems in the US and have about 800 people on our teams. We do CDI is what my group is, and then we also do middle revenue cycle with coding audit. We have a healthcare IT section and an HIM. Our HIM team has been 2 years running, voted #1 in Black Book, and this year we received the honor of CDI Consulting. And we are in for a treat today to hear from our roundtable panelist. I'm excited to share you'll hear from later in our presentation from our very own Nick Raup, who is our Senior VP of AI and Automation at E4 Health, Connie Yorgers, who's a Senior Director at Zigna AI, and one of our CDI consultants, Shama Kendall, who we get to have on our team as a CDI consultant. So you'll get to hear from each of them a little bit later in today's presentation. Thank you all. Thank you for joining us. So let's just talk a little bit about, in general, AI. And you can hardly turn on the news, read something that doesn't mention AI. We have self-driving cars, navigation, virtual assistants like Siri, ChatGPT, Copilot, and the list goes on. AI is no longer a buzzword. It's quickly changing the healthcare industry and our lives. For me, hearing about AI is exciting. It's sometimes scary. It's interesting. It's all those kind of things. I still get a little creeped out when I casually mention I want to buy some new patio furniture, and then suddenly my social media feed is filled with, check out these 49 different types of patio chairs that I didn't even know existed. I don't know if that happens to you all. I think somebody's listening in, but it's all about that AI. And I just thought this was an interesting stat from Max Wolf, a blog post sharing that 25% of us do worry that machines will take over the world, and 7 in 10 consumers harbor some fear about AI. Today, as we dig in a little bit about AI and healthcare and listen to our guests, hopefully it'll decrease our fears and understand that it's more of a tool that can really help us create efficiencies. A few more facts that just when AI came out, I didn't guess it would advance so quickly. I'm closer to the end of my career in the beginning, and when I first started my career, we were pretty excited about getting an email to exchange. So it's really progressed over the last few decades. Just some statistics is the global AI market is right now valued at 327 billion and is projected to really soar to 1.3 trillion by 2029, and that's not that far away. 87% of organizations believe AI will provide them with a competitive advantage, and 54% of executives report that AI has already increased productivity in their business. And from a consumer perspective, 7 in 10 believe AI can significantly improve their daily lives, and 60% of employees say their companies are already using AI. So, really is here and joining us. And when I was doing research for this presentation and looking at where AI is in patient care, I kept going down rabbit holes because I found it so fascinating on all the different ways healthcare is using AI. Some of you just thought I'd give you a few highlights. In medical imaging and diagnostic, DeepMind AI for eye disease detection. They developed a model that scans your eye to detect diseases like diabetic neuropathy and macular degeneration. And, this works, with eye doctors and stuff that can lead to faster diagnoses and treatment, reducing the risk of blindness for patients. Some predictive analytics for early detection. Path AI uses machine learning to analyze pathology slides and predicts cancers, especially breast cancer and melanoma, really looking at those things that pathologists maybe can't see, and it's leading to early detection and better patient outcomes. We got some drug discovery and development. Atomwise leverages AI to predict how different molecules will interact. The company famously partnered with the University of Toronto to develop potential treatments for the Ebola virus. Personalized medical treatments, ADAC for radiology, and this even happens like in my mom and dad's local hospital where it's a rural hospital. They'll send their radiology reports to get them scanned and then kind of prioritize them so that doctors can pay attention to the most urgent patients, leading to better outcomes and more efficient use of healthcare resources. Clinical decision support. Google has an AI for skincare detection, can diagnose skin cancers by analyzing skin lesions, helping dermatologists. And then if you've worked in the hospital, this was starting when I was at the bedside, the Da Vinci system, which is the robotic tool that really helps with minimally invasive surgeries that help doctors or surgeons with their surgeries, leading to shorter recovery times, reduced risk, and improved outcomes. Virtual health assistants is another one. I wanted to try one of these, and I did download the app Ada Health. Is another example of an AI-driven platform that's a symptom checker, and I was sharing it with my kids and just showing like, hey, you can just Google it, and it's free. It's very informative. It has 14 million users, 7 languages, and 50 in-house medical experts. Now, I didn't get enough time to like fact check it 100%, but really it was kind of just interesting that it's just at your hands. And then remote monitoring, we've had our Apple Watches, but now they're utilizing that even for real-time vitals so that data can be collected from your healthcare providers to help manage chronic conditions such as heart failure, COPD. So I think that's really cool. And then the chatbots for AI with mental health. Now, I think there's nothing better than a person, but just even like if you aren't able to get to a person, it can help with cognitive behavior therapy, interacts with the users. I was doing a little research on that and how it just kind of can help with conversations, helping them with coping strategies. So really cool stuff in the AI space and, in healthcare. So just to give you a high level of that. And then, so find that all interesting and really mind-blowing, and I hope you found that interesting as well. And I'd like to welcome our first panelist, Nick Rowe. Thank you, Nick, for joining us. Let's start by you please sharing your role at E4 Health and how you got interested in AI.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, Stacy. So I currently have responsibility for E4 Health's AI and automation strategy. Our innovation software development team also reports to me. I've worked in healthcare technology for the entirety of my 24-year career. healthcare is an industry replete with opportunities to improve efficiency. You highlighted a lot of the areas where AI is helping from a clinical support standpoint, but there are a number of opportunities that are administrative in nature where AI and automation can also play a role. And so, from my standpoint, AI and automation provide the means to achieve these efficiencies and performance improvements at scale. And I want to have a hand in creating these efficiencies for our industry.
Thank you. How do you see AI tools impacting the day-to-day workflow of middle revenue cycle, like with coding and CDI?
Yeah, so there are a number of AI vendors and technologies impacting workflows within mid-revenue cycle. So think about it, a lot of the audience has probably heard about ambient scribes, right, are gaining greater market adoption and are utilizing the large language models to synthesize the clinical notes to enhance accuracy. Within CDI, AI capabilities are identifying documentation gaps and coding inconsistencies to help CDI specialists improve documentation more efficiently. Additionally, AI is providing second level review post code, but pre-claim as a safety net to identify revenue and quality opportunities prior to the claim going to the payer. And then autonomous coding. I think probably a lot of the audience has heard about that as well. Are really focused on automating the coding workflow for less complex encounters, allowing human coders to focus on higher complexity scenarios. One of the things that I guess I would say, kind of going to your earlier slide around the mindset or the kind of the consumer mindset around AI. The idea of AI and automation can seem scary to some. My perspective is that the goal of these technologies is not to replace the human workforce, but rather augment workers and enable them to operate at the top of their licensure.
Great, thank you. And I know yesterday, we talked at length about how we prioritize AI innovation projects. And if you'd share with the audience, what criteria do you use to decide which technologies are a good fit, or if you're an organization, on how to identify that?
Yeah, so I definitely do not advocate the use of technology just for the sake of the technology. Rather, an organization should identify the business problem they are looking to solve, really understand the challenge it poses to the team or a department, and agree on what success looks like at the start, right? Then determine what technology can help solve that problem and where the technology needs to be introduced. As my team and I work with our business stakeholders, it starts with what the problem is that they are trying to solve. Sometimes robotic process automation can be employed to most efficiently address the issue at hand, while other times a more robust AI enabled solution is needed, like in the instance of autonomous coding. So each situation is unique, but as we look to prioritize projects, we focus on the value to the organization, solving the business challenge will provide, the cost associated with building the technology or licensing the technology or partnering with a vendor technology, the time to value and the cost associated with change management, because that certainly can't be overlooked either as far as that level of effort to the business to implement and adopt the solutions. So that's all the criteria, or those are all examples of criteria that we use when evaluating technologies.
Thank you, Nick. That's really helpful. And I'm going to have Nick do a couple of these next slides, because this is really what kind of helped me understand AI and that progression. And sometimes we use a lot of acronyms. And so I'll have you, if you don't mind, explaining the next few slides to our audience.
Yeah, sounds good. Happy to. So this view is a slide that I typically use when speaking with our customers to really help level set and base or ground everyone in some of those terms, like Stacy was saying, that kind of people throw around, right? AI can mean kind of a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So when I think about the overall continuum of AI within healthcare, I kind of look at it how it's progressed over the course of my career, right? So over the past 20, I'm sorry, over the past 20 years, 2 decades, RPA or robotic process automation has been around for a long time, right? And it has its place. I think that just because it's an older technology doesn't mean that it shouldn't be used anymore. When you have situations where you have repetitive tasks that your workers are performing, right? RPA can be a good solution for those low complexity, high volume type of tasks. I think one of the challenges associated with RPA is that it's really very structured, right? So, and it's dependent on the user interface in which it's operating. So as products change, systems change, websites change, right? The bots tend to break and need maintenance in order to continue to provide the value that they were previously providing. Machine learning is an area that has also been around for a number of years now. Typically requires a higher level of skill in the form of a data scientist, and really to be able to build out the models and the algorithms associated with the machine learning domain. Needs a lot of data, right? And the ability for those data scientists to be able to train those models is as a specific or in particular skill set, right? But what we see from a value standpoint is that it leads to predictive engines, right? The ability for the AI to predict something that's going to happen in the future, right? So whether that's looking at patient volumes in order to be able to predict scheduling or no-shows, right? Those are examples of where machine learning can provide assistance. NLP, or natural language processing, has continued to evolve, right? So that's really the ingestion of structured and unstructured data by the machine in order to be able to normalize the data, understand the data that's in that document, and then provide users with information associated with that data, right? So think about ingestion of contracts, right, between the provider and payer, the ability to ingest those, normalize, and then extract data out, right? That's examples where I've seen NLP utilized. Computer vision, ambient scribes, right, are something that has gained more traction recently. Like I mentioned before, the ability for ambient scribes to listen in on that provider patient appointment and really be able to accurately capture the the conversation and the results of that conversation from a documentation standpoint is extremely valuable. Generative AI, I think that probably everyone on here is familiar with ChatGPT and these large language models, right? Really over the past 2 years have come to the forefront of just the national conversation in regards to AI. The nice thing about these generative AI models is that it really brings the power of AI to the end user in a much more consumable way, right? So if you haven't experimented with ChatGPT, I would suggest that you do, because it's, again, we fear the things we don't understand, but having an ability to interact with that AI and see how you can value from it or gain value from it is really interesting. But when we look at the utilization of Gen AI in healthcare, I mean, I've seen things as providers generating appeal letters, right, in regards to the denied claims that they're sending back to payers, right? So there's a significant number of different capabilities that are available to use within your organizations. The kind of the question mark there, I didn't write it in, but agentic AI is the newest, I'll say, a buzzword, for lack of a better word, in regards to how AI has continued to evolve. And that's really just the interaction of, or the ability of AI to interact with different forms of itself, right? So you have agents that can coordinate RPA, can coordinate with large language models in order to complete more sophisticated tasks, right? So again, this is just really meant to kind of provide a baseline. And if you are interested in learning more, I'd always be happy to get some time and talk with you about these things. But Stacy, I think we can go on to the next slide here.
Thank you.
So this is really just our view of how AI has matured within the mid-revenue cycle in particular, right? So when we look at coding, really kind of break that out into two areas: inpatient coding, outpatient coding. From an inpatient standpoint, AI is not at the stage where it's able to really provide a lot of value, right, in the form of autonomous coding. Those scenarios are much more complex and require humans to continue to look at those encounters, the documentation to accurately code those scenarios. From an outpatient standpoint, an ancillary perspective, the autonomous coding has provided value, right? The market has has been inundated with a number of different vendors where they are providing autonomous coding engines. And so I would say that the market is a little bit more mature in regards to its ability to utilize AI in the outpatient coding space. From a CDI standpoint, there are a number of vendors that are leveraging natural language processing and machine learning in order to be able to make recommendations, right? So we do see some early stage capabilities there. Same with second level review, right? I would say that that's kind of in the same ballpark in regards to its maturity. Auditing, I haven't seen a ton of vendors really providing a lot of AI-enabled solutions from an auditing standpoint, but certainly the ability to leverage machine learning and make predictions in regards to some of the auditing work that is performed within mid-revenue cycle is definitely available. Stacy, I think go to my last slide.
All right, thank you.
So what I wanted to leave you all with here is just an example of how AI and automation can really provide value within the mid-revenue cycle, and in particular within CDI from a second level review standpoint. So what we are able to provide at E4Health is an ability to extract out the pertinent data from the EMR. There's robotic process automation capabilities that do that. There's APIs that we can utilize within that are available from an EMR standpoint that can pull out the data. But the ability to automatically take out the data, send it through our AI engine, natural language processing engine, where it ingests that documentation, the coding worksheet, and then utilize algorithms to determine or to provide a score, high, medium, low, from a level of accuracy standpoint that the documentation is supportive of the coding worksheet. Based on that scoring engine, our CDI specialists on Stacy's team can then really look at those high, those encounters that have a high likelihood that an error exists, and really prioritize those to determine, is a query needed in order to improve the documentation? Is it a coding related issue, or was the engine inaccurate and it actually can go on to billing? There isn't any discrepancies there, and kind of have that human in the loop from a learning standpoint in regards to the AI. That information goes through our dashboards, visualizations, reporting, and then is sent back to the EMR, right? So from a reporting perspective, all of that is then available for customers to really understand how the quality of their documentation and the opportunities for continued education, right? So this is an example where multiple different forms of AI are being utilized in order to provide efficiency and greater value to the CDI space. So Stacy, with that, I think my time, I've used all my time, so I will let you continue on. So thank you very much for having me.
Yes, thank you, Nick. And I always learn something when I work with you, and just appreciate how technology, and like Allison and I, we have our nursing brain and we get to work with the innovations team. It's fun to be able to always learn, at least in my, I like to do that. So thank you for sharing. So
Absolutely.
let's take a little look at role of artificial intelligence, or AI, in CDI. So many of you are probably actively using some of these forms. They've been around for a while, the natural language processing, computer-assisted coding, using those tools, like Nick had said, they analyze unstructured and structured notes and convert them, so that it really helps with efficiencies. It auto-suggests things. In the last few years, love seeing like there's the prioritization, where it helps us to prioritize what cases to be seen in CDI. And there's always that love-hate relationship of whether it's prioritizing right or not, but it is helping create some efficiencies. really have seen a nice progression too with customers using smart phrases, helping those doctors at the right at the point of contact to be able to come up with some phrases and some drop down prompts. I remember when I first started CDI and I sent my first CHF query, I'm like, well, won't I be like, won't everyone kind of get that? And 15 years later, we're still sending CHF queries. So maybe these smart phrases will help where they can be prompted right from the start so that our queries can be more of the complex type or something new. And then we're starting to see more predictive analytics using just Power BI, using different analytics tools that really can kind of help us, where to focus, where to look at, what's our productivity. So lots of uses that we're seeing in CDI. And then, of course, there's benefits and there's challenges, right? And we, as Nick said, as I'm sure you're all experienced, is that there are operational efficiencies, right? We want to. There's lots of records. We don't typically end up running out of patients, right? And so, how can we do our jobs more efficient? And how can we optimize our workflow and increase that productivity by still giving a quality product, making sure that the documentation is representing that complete picture of the clinical picture of our patients. And then really though that pro identification of documentation gaps where where you get those auto prompts of query suggestions, that is a benefit. I do worry when people don't use their mind and they just use those auto suggestions, but it does give you an idea of what to search for in the record. However, it's not without challenges, right? It's still, new. There's going to be challenges, and it's really balancing that technology and human oversight, making sure you still do use your mind, ensuring that data quality and integrity. I know when it first came out, like when it would say like no history of, right? Like you'd have to, and then they would say whatever that diagnosis is, and then the computer assisted coding would suggest that, but I think that's improving over time, that negative forefront of the word. And then just navigating technical issues like when you don't have the technology to rely on. And then, especially it's hard, right? Change is hard, right? And trying to understand and trying to learn. And then just really mitigating the risk of over reliance to AI. We don't want to forget to use our brain. And as Nick said about ChatGPT, been using that, and then one day it was down, and then all of a sudden I'm kind of panicking because I do rely on that. And so, we got to make sure that we don't forget that our brains have to continue to function. So. AI is amazing, and we will see lots of potential in our industry, but it's helpful to keep in mind that it is a tool. So that brings us to our next roundtable guest. Welcome, Shaima. Thank you for sharing your experiences with us today, and for being part of our E4 CDI team. We're very lucky to have you. So thanks for taking time out of your day. So if you want to please share your role, your CDI role, and how you're utilizing AI technology in your current role.
Sure. I'm a CDI consultant working and reviewing any missing opportunity or flags that is created by AI that could be, especially post discharge, that could be of any impact on DRG or weight, SOI, or quality or risk adjustment.
Okay, great. And how does that role fit into your, like, if you're comparing to your normal CDI role to like what you're doing now, how would you say that fits in?
See, as a CDI, although that the AI can detect the opportunity, can create the query, and even send it to the provider, I still, as a clinical documentation specialist, have to clinically validate already the query or the missing opportunity that is created. Using the AI can detect any like small change, so it can flag a lot of opportunities. So I have to use my clinical judgment for which query I should send to the provider to also avoid the query fatigue. I'm also reviewing any AI captures for complication issue, hacks, PSIs, comorbidity, or any quality measures.
Yeah, I like using your clinical judgment, right? Like I always like to hear that, like, hey, we still have to utilize it, but it does probably create some efficiencies. What would you say is the most challenging as you face as you're getting the utilizing the AI?
See, the most common challenge that I usually see that the confusion between the history and active diagnosis. So I am sure that any diagnosis documented under past medical history will be a questions from the AI. Any like a minor change in any labs order will be a questions from the AI. Also, there is if the provider stated like we're gonna do an COVID order with a viral panel, I'm pretty sure that 99% I will see missed opportunity for COVID because just it's detected as active diagnosis while it's just an order. Other challenges that I usually face with the AI is the overflag of minor documentation issue, especially for the labs with a mild decrease, without any evaluation, any treatment or anything. But once there is a change in the lab's values, this will be like detection from the AI right away. This could be sometimes create like a flags from 6 up to 10 query opportunity to look for. And sometimes this is how I use a clinical judgment for clinically validate those. And sometimes I can say that all the 10 flags or the 10 query opportunity is not valid to be sent as a like a query opportunity, actual query opportunity. I usually say that the AI is similar to person with an overthinking issue. Um, Sometimes I see the documentation is straightforward. Let's say CHF, for example, the provider stated that this is a chronic condition, and he even put evidence of why this is a chronic condition and it's not acute. But the AI is looking once the CHF is mentioned. I feel like there's something here. We need to ask about the acuity still. So it's the overthinking of anything, even if it's straightforward, but I have to ask for it. There is something wrong here.
That's very interesting, and it is you love the AI, and it's auto prompting, but um, it you just think if we just let it go, right? Our physicians would hate
Yeah.
us, right? If that would be the case. So thankful that there are people that can critically think and do that. But so that's the challenges. But how about the benefits are you seeing?
It's a lot, to be honest. It's I feel like that the AI is empowering the CDI work. One of the best thing that I dealt with is that it's reducing the manual workload. Especially for me, sometimes our most of my review is post-discharge, and many times I have many accounts with a long length of stay for like months, and for me, this is hard to open all the charts, the hundreds and thousands of notes to find the opportunity or to improve the chart, right? So this is the help of the AI here. When it's detecting the important missing opportunity, it's minimize my time and my effort to just go through those opportunities, look at them, clinically validate, and whatever is impacting and valid, this is how I send the query for it. So also detecting any, for me, it's help for detecting any missing opportunities, missing information, conflicting documentation, the non-specific documentation, which is like chest pain. So it is minimize my work, my manual workload. So even concurrently, before I open the chart or before I review, I just look at the flags for what's created for. This is giving me a good idea when I'm looking for the chart or review the chart, what I need to look for, and just go straight forward to those to find the impact or to find how to improve the charts. So it is. I'm not saying it's replacing the CDI, but it's empowering my work and minimal effort, minimal time. And this will improve my work and even increase my productivity through the time.
Thank you. I do find that fascinating, right? And you hit it right on. It's like it's helping with efficiencies and being able to, and like Nick had said, it is to, not have to do those manual processes and kind of
Exactly.
prompt you. So
Yeah.
thank you, Shaima. I hope the audience has a pleasure listening to you, working with the AI and hearing the pros and cons. So thank you so much for
Thank
your
you.
time today. All right. So what does the future look like? And we don't have a crystal ball, but it I think it's going to continue to evolve. We all think that, right? There's a lot of effort, there's a lot of people working on this. And so I think the technology that Shaima is using is going to continue to advance, and it's going to continue to have some greater accuracy, understanding that medical terminology, and so continue advancement. The real-time documentation assisted, I think we'll have some providers that are really going to be working within those EHRs to have those smart phrases kind of on, or smart text on steroids. Just really even the analytics of CDI, like where we spend our time and where can we what cases can we spend more time on, that really helps show that clinical picture, and using past trends. Right now we do that a lot on spreadsheets and that type of thing, but there's going to be a lot more predictive analytics, believe. Continuous learning. I talked to somebody that is a textbook company writer, and they were just talking about how textbook writing is very different now, and how they're utilizing AI, and how my college kids don't have to buy books. It's all online, so that continuous learning and adaptation will be continue. We haven't seen it, quite yet, but that a compliance and audit support. I think that there's going to be some, post reviews that we can really look at potential risk. Where we're seeing it, like in second level review, there might be some audit capabilities too, and then that improved clinical decision support. So the question I always like to ask myself is, am I going to be replaced, right? Isn't that our question? That's our worry, right? And AI can analyze mountains of clinical data, can detect documentation gaps, flag inconsistencies, but it still can't navigate the fine art of chasing down physicians for clarification, interpreting vague notes like patient doing better, or knowing exactly when to send that friendly reminder for follow-up for query. So I like to think, and I saw this somewhere else, is AI isn't replacing us. We'll think of it as a new intern with zero people skills and Wi-Fi dependency. They can only do as much as they can without Wi-Fi. So that's kind of a key there. But it is likely to stay and will continue to be a vital part of our future. And so it's going to transform it, and it's not going to probably take us over, but we're going to be able to use our analytic skills and our critical thinking skills, and it will really evolve over time, and we're going to be having to be more strategic and maybe even a more specialized. And so, I think we have to think of AI as a tool, and I think we need to remember that we're going to be needed for our clinical judgment and expertise. Just like as Shaima said, is, just think if she wasn't doing that and all of the queries that we're going to be sending, we're going to kind of be the ethical and regulatory compliance to make sure that, we don't let the AI just produce queries. It's just going to enhance our role. We get to really not just be doing tasks. We're going to get to actually use our minds and patients, like thinking about complex cases. And there's just no replacement for human touch and communication with quality, with our coding colleagues, with dietitians, right? There's just so much of that. Our roles are in collaboration. And so with that, our third and final guest, last but not least, is Connie. And Connie and I have been working together on that enhanced second level review process. And I just have been enjoying, Connie, a fellow nurse, and how she works at Zigna AI. And Connie, if you could just share about your role and how you got interested in AI.
Yeah, hi, thanks, Stacy. Thanks, everyone, for going before me. So I've probably been in healthcare, fortunately, so for over 30 years in multiple different roles. And I think for a lot of people, when we think about where we are in our career, Sometimes we don't always see how that's going to help us right down the road. But when I get to this age and this part of my career, I can see all the different places that I worked in healthcare and how they added to my knowledge base. And I can use them right now, even working with the team at Cigna, right? Working with the data science and technology, because now I know what it is to be in the hospital, to be in the emergency room, to be in ICU. I can see it in my head. I can see the documentation that we get and how that was formulated in the doctor's office, even in the nursing home, right? I've been in all of those environments and I can extract from that what it looks like to actually be in those positions. So when we're talking to data science and we're looking at medical records or claims, audits, right, that we can begin to understand the people, just like you're talking about, who put this together, what was the situation they were dealing with when they put together, what do we need to extract, what do we not need to extract, right? What's important to understand from this medical record for this patient, whether it was a 1-day stay, an ambulatory surgical care facility visit, or a long stay, like Shama just talked about, those medical records that are so long. I'm excited to be part of AI. I think, like you said, Stacy, if we think about how long have we been involved in AI? Well, I guess since the beginning, because we didn't realize that it was always already being built, right? And what we thought, we never thought about using AI. It's become kind of trendy to say, but the whole time, if we think back about looking at like a Tabor's medical dictionary, right? Just trying to find all these different things, or a PDR for drugs. It was so cumbersome. All that is just pulling all of the information together, right? And making it more accessible, using our time more efficiently, and just being able to extract what's important. But like you said, like Sean said, we have to use our critical thinking skills, right? It's not without need for the human touch to say, that's interesting, that was helpful, but I need more. Or of all these things that I was giving, this one I'm pushing out because. So, yeah.
Thank you, Connie. And so as you do your work, like where do you see healthcare AI make the most significant impact in like the next 5 years? And I know it's kind of hard, we don't have crystal balls, but just like what you're seeing, because your role is kind of unique. What are you seeing coming up?
Well, if we're talking about where we are, right, in payment integrity, we're looking for more payment accuracy. Cigna's really trying to drive that, right? We want that transparency between the providers and the payers. We want the process to be friendly and simple, clear, not cumbersome, not caught up with a lot of time-consuming processes to understand all the different rules. Already we're burdened with medical records that are in different formats from every single hospital, right? And like we were talking about earlier, like the smart phrases, right? We have to spend a lot of time trying to understand the human language as it's used differently by different people, right? Everybody just doesn't say everything the same way, although it might have the same meaning in the end. So I think if what I would hope is, right, through this transparency and beginning to understand that we all want the same outcome, right? We want patients cared for by the best providers. We want to give them the time and the products they need to do the care that the patients deserve. And then we don't want providers to be caught up trying to get payment for the services they provided. And we want the insurance companies, the payers, right, to pay appropriately. Not overpay, but also not underpay. So just transparency across the board. Then I think if we all begin, right, to think in the same way and improve the documentation, right, it makes everything move smoother. But for us, being able to extract that information from what we have now, the medical records, sectioning those medical records, understanding the languages that are being used, build and train the machine learning, right, to extract exactly what's needed. So when we get to CDI or we get to that coding validation, right, I only want to see what's important. Were those things that I thought were supported, or is the documentation there? Or do we need a query, right? Do we need to improve this before it goes for payment? And this is all my coding supported. And did we miss anything? Did we have an opportunity here to code for something and we missed it? Here's our opportunity to pull in. But we want to make that process precise and quick. And we want the user to feel completely confident.
Great, great. Lots of interesting and exciting things to come.
Yeah.
So how do you see AI collaborating with healthcare providers? Like, I think you touched on it just a little bit about easing that administrative burden or enhancing clinical workflows.
Well, let me think. The first thing I'd like to say, of course, is that there's always going to need, like you said, human touch, right? And critical thinking, because as much progress is made in AI or what we're using like machine learning, or even if you get to generative, right? It's a machine being taught. And so there's always that opportunity for bias or for it to be taught in the wrong way. And so we have to be very aware of what we're doing and make our choices very specific and clean so that the outcome is appropriate. So I think for administrative burdens, AI is going to be a big help. If you think just about reporting in itself, right, instead of looking through multiple spreadsheets and trying to merge them and understand what's going on, AI can pull all that information for you and give you a surmise result. The same that we can do with medical records now. So it's exciting.
It is. How do you handle skepticism? So like when you're on a call, and I was recently on a call and somebody's like, well, I don't believe in AI. I don't think we need it. Like what's your reaction to that when people are weary of AI?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think we've all probably at one point said, what's happening, right? Are we in control? Is something taking over? Everybody's afraid the robots, right, are coming and we won't have any control. But like you said, we're in control of the robots. And I think that's what's important to remember. I wouldn't be afraid of anything. Like I said, I think it's been coming for a long time. We just didn't label it like we are now. We've always been moving in this direction. We just don't have the time in our workday. Our clients cannot wait to get the information that they need, and we don't need to hand them, right, an entire manual to go through. They want the information, they want it surmised, and they want it correct. So I think don't be afraid of it, embrace it, and let's help teach it to go in the right direction.
Great. Thank you, Connie. I appreciate your time. And I just think it's so neat with, for those of you listening that are nurses, just, who would have thought when you were a bedside nurse that this is, what you'd be talking about. So, thank you for sharing your expertise and appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
So, I hope, we just scratched the surface and, we could spend hours talking about AI and, where it's at. And it is such a fascinating topic. So I just wanted to try to sum it up somehow and just, especially for the CDI professionals on the phone, what are some success tips that you can have? And there's, no rocket science here, but just having that learning, curiosity, right? It can be scary, but at times it's fun to learn about that. And I encourage you, if you haven't done ChatGPT or used Copilot or, just kind of experience that. It's just fun to play around with and, stay informed and updated and utilize AI vendor demonstrations and trials, right? Because nobody has it 100% figured out yet, right? And so by taking advantage of listening to vendors, listening to pilot programs, taking on some free trials to just really understand, and it really helps grow and learning and gives you something to think about and how to improve it. I'd also recommend if you're not utilizing anything, reach out to other peer institutions or other CDI programs that, hey, how are you using this? And, what do you find helpful? And right now there's always pros and there's always cons. I haven't seen this perfect tool out there that fixes all of our problems. But if you continue to just approach that with that curiosity and an open approach, hey, this is some really good things, but hey, you know what, these are some things I'm going to have to continue to keep an eye on. Ask questions, poke holes in it. I wish our time, we kind of have it labeled down pretty tight so we don't get time for open questions, but put those questions in the survey, the post survey, because we always will try our best to respond to them, and ask questions to the ACDIS and AHEMA, and I'm excited for the national conference to just really be listening for how people are utilizing technologies. Always, like, when you are doing with AI, think about your regulatory compliance, HIPAA, so Chat GPT, it's if you're utilizing that, that's out in the world. So no PHI, making sure that you don't put anything like that in there, out there. And then be adaptable and flexible. That's what kind of healthcare is, right? We're always pivoting, we're always changing, but that is just the way our evolution of our solutions can be can go through to continue to get better and continue to learn. So I hope you found our information helpful. If you do have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to have further conversations. And now I'll turn it over to Allison, and she'll wrap us up and talk about how you will get your ACDIS free CEU today.
Yeah, and thank you, Stacy and Nick and Shaima and Connie for sharing today's materials. And for our audience, we hope you found the presentation insightful and useful and maybe even a bit inspiring. If you'd like to collaborate further or learn more about how E4 Health can support your CDI program, please let us know through the post-session survey. Our CDI services team is here to help your team reach its full potential. And for those that are not currently an E4 Health customer but are interested in joining our CDI services team, we'd love to connect with you. In the post-session survey, you'll find an option to indicate your interest and follow up with our talent acquisition team. We're proud of our amazing CDI team, and we're always looking for passionate CDI professionals who share our vision of empowering better health. And at E4, we're deeply committed to supporting the CDI community. We offer complimentary monthly CDI tips, host engaging CDI roundtables, and provide valuable resources through our customer newsletter. So make sure to follow us on LinkedIn to stay up to date with the latest news, tools, and opportunities. And just another plug for the ACDIS. We'd love to connect with you in person. Stacy and I will be attending the National ACDIS Conference at the Gaylord Palms in Orlando in just a few weeks. So if you're planning to attend, please stop by the E4 Health booth. We'd love to say hello. And then speaking of roundtables, if you enjoyed today's session, we'd invite you to join us again on Wednesday, June 11th at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time for our next CDI roundtable. We'll be tackling complex topics in CDI and offering practical insights and solutions. This session will also be accredited with an ACDIS CEU. The registration is free, however, space is limited. You can register using the link provided here on the screen, and the details will also be shared in a follow-up email from today's session. So now it's the time that everyone's been waiting for, how to receive your free ACDIS CEU. So please complete the evaluation link. That's going to be provided in a few different areas, so don't fret if you don't see it. The first place that you can see it is in the Teams Q&A chat if you're in the live session. And then the second way is the link will also be included in a follow-up email along with the webinar recording. And so once you complete your post survey, the certificate will be available to download and you can get your ACDIS CEU. Well, we truly appreciate your time today, and we hope to see you again virtually in June and in person at the National ACDIS Conference. So thank you again to all of our panelists and everyone on the line. I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day. Thanks for joining.